Coming up on Tech News Today, it's Labor Day, which means we're not actually in the studio today, but we pre-recorded a special episode with 3 members of the audience from the chat room, one audio-only listener, some podcasters, a comedian. It's all for us to get a chance to talk to you guys about what you do, get some of your interesting stories. It's our open mic episode coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, September 2nd, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Labor Day. Go hug a union member or a right-to-work activist, whatever works for you. Labor Day, it's for barbecuing. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Aya Zactor.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where normally we're going through the tech news, but through the magic of time travel, we have gone into the future to Labor Day, even though we're all off today and the Twit studios are closed, because we wanted to do something that we normally do during the holiday break in December, but we keep saying, we should do this more often. And thank you, Jason Howell, for remembering that we said that this year.
No worries.
Getting us off our butts and putting together a listener co-host special. So you guys excited? We got 3 listeners to bring onto the show that we picked from hundreds of emails.
Absolutely. I'm always looking forward to it. And that's exactly why I wanted to, do what I could to get this going, because it's a lot of fun. It's always fun to meet the folks on the other side, and we hear that it's fun for them too, to kind of get a chance to talk to people that talk into their ears all day. So
now, obviously, if we didn't pick you, we're really sorry. You're like most people, because we only had time for 3 people. And that's why we want to do it more often, so we get a chance to pick more people. Let's start bringing in our first guest, producer and co-host of the Collection DX, the show, Mr. Adam Paloski. You folks in the chat room know him as Adam12. Hey, Adam. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Hi, TNT crew.
Hello, Adam.
Hola.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
Very nervous. Of course, you have me out first. Of course, it's me first.
Hey, you do a show, so you're
experienced.
Fair enough.
I've been on your show, and it was a really good time. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So my internet thing has been over the last couple of years. A friend of mine launched a Japanese toy review site called Collection DX about 8 years ago, 10 years ago, actually. I joined in about 8 years ago, writing some reviews, helping out. And as time went on, I took on more and more responsibilities. And being a fan of Twit, obviously, I've been trying to find an excuse to do a podcast over the years. And I convinced Josh Bernard, my cohort in all of this, to sit down and give it a try. And it's a little bit inspired by what TNT does and the way they present their news. And it's a little bit BB Live show NSFW as far as the way it's presented. But yeah, we do it weekly. We talk Japanese toys, collectibles, news, reviews. It's a little bit of everything. It's basically the Josh and Adam opinion show about geeky things every week.
What got you interested in listening to podcasts? It sounds like listening to a bunch of different shows kind of inspired you to start your own. But how did you get involved? Did you start listening way back in the mid-2000s like everybody else?
Pretty much. I'm sure it's kind of the same, like a broken record around here on Twit. Whenever you get one of the chat realm members up here, watched Leo, watched Tech TV, knew all of you guys from there. And when Tech TV went away, it broke my heart. Life was never the same again. And so obviously Leo and you got, and I know you were on the initial or early Twit podcast. So I followed that, and obviously that grew online. So really, more than anything, it's all of you folks at Twit, more than anything else, really, that has been an inspiration to me over the years to kind of do what we're doing online. Yeah.
Was Twit the first podcast you ever subscribed to, or do you even remember the first podcast?
I believe Twit was indeed, I believe it was originally called Revenge of the Screensavers.
For one episode, I think. Yeah.
For one whole episode. I believe that was hands down the first, I believe the second or third podcast I ended up subscribing to was East Meets West. You might have heard of it.
Whoa. Yeah, no one's heard of that.
No one's heard of that. Exactly. So, yeah, clearly you guys, everybody involved with the Twit over the years has just really clearly been sort of role model that, just do something you love, talk about something you love, talk about something you're knowledgeable, and you'll find an audience,
We got to talk about the Voltron behind you.
Okay, let's talk about the Voltron behind me.
Now, do you call it Voltron or do you call it Go Lion since you're into the Japanese side of this?
I really appreciate the Japanese side of this, but I was first exposed to it as Voltron. Go Lion as an intellectual, I understand it is, but to me, it's always Voltron, just like Robotech. A lot of the diehard fans remember Macross, and to me, no matter what, that main character is always Rick Hunter. To me, this guy behind me is always going to be Voltron, no matter what. So, it's about what you're exposed to as a kid, what you have nostalgia for. I watched this as a kid as it aired, so it was one of those things of it's just, I think that's why I like sharing it with other people, is because it made me happy when I was a kid.
Were you shocked about the amount of violence that's actually in Go Lion compared to Voltron? Because when I started watching Japanese stuff, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, people are dying in this. Didn't happen in Voltron.
Yes, absolutely. And that was kind of the problem. When the nephews come over, the youngest one makes a beeline for this, and part of the play session is that he wants to watch Voltron on the computer, and I'll go dig up clips because intellectually the geeks like to know the Japanese is better. You find way more Go Lion clips than you do Voltron clips, and Voltron is more kid-friendly, more kid-safe. So that can be a problem. It's shocking how creepy and how violent the original cartoon is. Very culturally different out there in Japan, what they present to a younger audience than what we have happening out here in the States.
Yeah, much like the Japanese version of TNT. Very violent.
Oh, my goodness. The Japanese version of TNT is crazy. It makes no sense. It's wild. It's out there. The gauntlet you make people run on that show over there in Japan is crazy.
They have a real news fuse, like they light it. Dangerous.
They're just running from explosions.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're obviously way into the collectibles market and way into some cool geeky stuff, but you're into technology too, obviously. That's how you got into finding out about us and listener of the show. What about technology do you like? What got you into technology?
Oh boy. Well, I'm 41, so I'm a kid. I was a child of the 70s.
Very young.
Yeah, I'm a youngin', and we had moved out to Hawaii just as the arcade explosion happened. Shortly after that was the home arcade, the home console explosion. So I remember having an Atari very, very young. Shortly after that, we got a Commodore 64. From there, I got the Technolust. My first computer for myself, my grandmother bought me, was a Texas Sinclair. And I remember trying to program on that how to create a password screen. And this is back, in the early 80s. So this is way before these things were being done on a regular basis. So from there, it's just been one of those things of over the years, kind of keeping up. Found the internet very, very early. I was on AOL early on, very quickly outgrew that. Heard about this World Wide Web thing happening. And from there, I was early in getting a real full internet provider that I dialed into. And from there, I've been online ever since. And the technology aspect, I enjoyed using it. And it was actually a segment on the Screensavers, believe it or not. Patrick Norton taught me how to build a computer from the ground up, and that changed my life.
That's a really popular segment too. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So from there, it's just been, it's hard to describe after that because it really just has been such a part of me ever since then. I've had the chance. The internet's the thing that has blown my mind the most. If you told me when I was a kid, I would have friends I have never met in real life that I interact with on an almost daily basis over things like Twitter or in the Twit Live chat room, or on Facebook or Google Plus, real people that I genuinely think are great and, have a lot of fun with, bantering back and forth in a way, I don't with my peers locally. It's great the way it brings people together. And that's what I've been most impressed by over the years.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before we let you go, I always try to put this question, and nobody wants to answer it. But seriously, you obviously like the show, or you wouldn't have gone to the lengths of emailing us and saying, hey, I want to be on the show. But if you could improve something, because we're always looking for improvements, or you could add something that we hadn't thought of yet, or anything like that, what would you do for our show?
Well,
what would you have us?
I have thought about this long and hard because, I know you ask this every time and everyone sits here and goes, oh, but the show's great. I love the show. And so my answer quite seriously is cowbell. You need more cowbell. No, seriously, guys, you do such a great job with the show. It is so tight. You guys have this down to a science. Your banter is great. If I was to get nitpicky, I'd say bring back something fun and silly like Liquid Fridays. I'm not sure why you guys. I think I missed why you guys stopped doing that.
Because we moved to 10 o'clock in the morning. We'd be lushes at that point.
Excuses. That'll make for
sense.
Mimosas it is. Yes. Mimosa Mondays.
There you go. Perfect. Or Liquid Wednesday.
Not just morning, but let's do it Monday morning. Why not?
Why not?
Let's just incorporate a big old brunch into the whole thing. Mimosas go idea. Best with waffles, right?
Who out there has brunch connections? I'm liking this idea. They have to be in LA and Petaluma and San Francisco on certain days to send chefs to our house. Adam, you've paid for your appearance now. We're going to get free brunch out of this.
Awesome.
And because you requested it, Adam. All right, there you go. A little more cowbell. Oh, excellent. Awesome. We want to give you what you ask for, so there you go.
Jason delivers.
I appreciate it.
Adam Paloski, Atom12, ATOM12 in the chat room, and Collection DX.
Actually, it's AT0MXII.
Oh, it is.
Oh, well, on Twitter. I'm sorry. You're right. Adam12, ATOM12 in the chat room. But follow me on Twitter and check out the show. And guys, all of you, Sarah, Ayaz, Tom, Jason, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun. And you guys just do great work. Thank you. It means a lot to me.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks for being with us all this time, Adam. Love to have you.
Not a problem. And I'll continue to be around. You see me in the chat room enough, so.
Excellent. We'll look for you there. We'll talk to you there.
Fantastic.
We'll chat with him.
We do that. Let's bring in Dan Nainan now. Dan is a comedian, actor, and former Intel engineer, I think is one of the things that caught our eye. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dan, and welcome to Tech News Today.
Hey, great. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be on here, and I follow you guys, every day on the podcast. And this is the first time I'm seeing you on camera, though. This is you all are very attractive, and because it's always in the car or an airport or in the subway, whatever. So this is wonderful. Thank you for having me on. I'm a professional comedian. I used to be a senior engineer with Intel. My job was to travel with Andy Grove and Odellini and Barrett and do technical demos on stage. Now, being half Indian and half Japanese, the technical part was easy, but the tough part was speaking on stage at it's all around the world, like the south of France or Phuket, Thailand, and being in front of thousands of people. So I thought, I've got to do something to get over this fear of speaking. So the first thing I did was take a Toastmasters, go to Toastmasters at Intel. But the problem with that, it was like 12 other computer geeks and me, and it wasn't enough of a simulation of being on stage in front of thousands of people. So I decided to take a comedy class to get over the fear of speaking, and it totally worked. And my third show ever, they asked me to perform for 2,500 people at the Intel sales conference. 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, nobody had been drinking.
Yeah, that's a tough crowd.
Yeah, and salespeople from all around the world. I did impressions of Andy Grove, and they were just dying. And afterwards, a lot of people said, hey, you're not really an Intel employee. You were hired to be a comedian. And that's when I thought maybe I could do this for a living.
That's pretty brave. Yeah. Did you start moonlighting first, or did you just all out quit and hit the road?
No, it took me a while. I mean, I did a few more Intel events as a comedian, and then I decided I would try to get promoted to a job in New York City, because you really have to be in New York or LA to do this. And then the job that I had ended up being really boring, so I decided to quit and go for it after a year. And then, things have kind of I mean, I'm not famous, but things have kind of blown up. I've performed at TED in India, and I was in a commercial for Apple, the Get a Mac series with Justin Long and John Hodgman, which was amazing. And I've
Wait, what part did you play in that commercial?
I was a guy who played. I was wearing bubble wrap, and the whole concept was that the MagSafe adapter on the Mac, where you pull out the adapter and it won't pull the computer off the table. Well, this PC, I'm a PC and I've got bubble wrap, so if I fall, then and Justin Long goes, "That's bubble wrap," and I didn't think it was really that funny. And I didn't know whether or not it would get approved. And of course, this was 2009, and Steve Jobs had, he approved all the commercials himself. And I thought, wow, he doesn't seem like he's that hands-on of a guy. I'm joking, of course. And
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and of course, and then when I was on tour in India, and all of a sudden my sister emails me and says, "I just saw your commercial on the NFL opener," and they started playing it over and over and over, and of course you get residuals every time it runs, and that was quite amazing to be an Apple commercial. It was one of the greatest days of my life. So
there it is, video version.
Oh yeah, you have it now.
We should have asked you to dress in bubble wrap so we could recognize you. Now I see.
Now we see.
Yeah.
Well, I asked them if I could keep the suit. They said no, they need it. So it was.
They need it.
They need to pack computers with it. Obviously,
that's how they pack John Hodgman around. That's the thing. You get shipped from
place
to place.
What happened was the first day when we did the costume fitting the day before the shoot, it was a separate jacket and pants of bubble wrap, and the director looks at it The director looks at it. He goes, "No, I don't like the seam. Make me a jumpsuit, a one-piece jumpsuit out of bubble wrap." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And the prop guys are like, "No problem." And they had it the next day for the shoot. It was amazing.
So what was it like traveling around with the 3 Intel founding members? I mean, I know you didn't have Gordon Moore, but those, Barrett, Otellini, Grove, those are titans in technology.
It was truly amazing. It was a fantastic job. I mean, I basically traveled the world, get on stage. My specialty was voice dictation. That was my favorite. My favorite demo was to do voice dictation and dragon and whatnot. And it was amazing. It was like the finest hotels and business class on the plane, and the finest restaurants and in the same hotels as they, and being on stage in front of thousands of people. I mean, it was a dream, honestly. Now, what's really weird is now I kind of pretty much doing the same thing, but it's my own business sort of, and I travel the world, and it's all, I like to say my life is like George Clooney and Up in the Air, just without the sex, and been to 21 countries doing this, and so yeah, no, it was a fantastic job, best job I ever had.
Your story fascinates me because it just goes to show you that you never really quite know exactly what your life has in store for you, and taking a risk like it sounds like you kind of did, or even just kind of putting your foot forward and saying, I need to do this to kind of improve my situation, could open up this whole series of doors for you. It's pretty interesting to see. You probably thought you had your life figured out at one point, and you never in a million years would have expected that it would have ended up turning into this like totally blooming comedic career. That's pretty impressive.
I loved my job at Intel. It was wonderful. And I took the class specifically to get over the fear of speaking. But I discovered this whole new thing, and I was like, wow. And the thing that I would tell people who are, say, in a job that they're not interested in, is they're interested in doing something creative, comedy or music or directing movies or dance or whatever it is. A lot of people will tell me, hey, I really want to do something else, but I don't have time. And I tell them, well, the average American says that, but they have 32 hours of television a week, and then they go out and get drunk on weekends. And so if you cut all that out, you have 70 to 80 hours to work on your craft while everyone else is out partying. So,
yeah, very good point.
Were they were Andy Grove and those guys nice to you, or was it sort of a distant, like that's the guy who does the stuff, and they're polite, but you never really engage with?
No, they're fantastic. The whole the whole thing about Intel, everything is very egalitarian. I mean, I would actually take people to see Grove's cube, friends. They couldn't believe it. His cube was the exact same size as my cube, and he would actually share his cube with an assistant. And, you know, there was no executive bathrooms or executive parking spaces. And when we would have, say, a big event, the executives would never be at the very, very front table. There would be a couple back. And it was all, everything was very egalitarian, first name basis. Andy was magnificent, and I remember the first time when I was supposed to do an impression of him, I emailed him and I said, you know, they want me to do an impression of you. Is that okay? And he said, oh, yeah, absolutely, have fun. And I mean, I got to spend a lot of time with him. They were all fantastic, wonderful people to work with, and you know, Andy's a legend, and I still have to pinch myself that I got to work with him as much as I did.
All right, Dan, well, thank you again for joining us. I'm going to put the question to you, and this is good that you're an audio listener only, totally. Because we're always trying to walk that balance between, like, we want to make the video compelling and interesting and show things, take advantage of the fact that we can show things, but we don't want to leave the audio listeners out. How are we doing? What could we do better for the audio listener?
I'll tell you, you know, I mean, it's amazing to, you know, it's, again, this is the first time I'm seeing you guys on the laptop here. It's always audio, walking around. I mean, I've stopped listening to music because when I'm in a rental car on the road, I just listen to these podcasts. See, I was listening to Leo, the tech guy, and I was listening to The Week in Tech, but I'm like, there's not enough of a fix. I need it every day too, right? And that's where Tech News Today is, you know, and I get to be informed and up on what's going on, and my friends think I'm a genius, you know, and but no, the audio, I mean, it's wonderful. There's honestly nothing I would improve. I would say, I don't know, have me on more. No, I'm just kidding. The only slight critique, I don't know, once in a while you guys mix up further and farther and less and fewer. And but, you know, further, of course, is an abstract distance, farther being an actual distance, and fewer being for items and less being for. But I mean, that's just nitpicking.
Excellent. If the biggest critique is a few little grammatical errors, then we're doing
totally
okay.
failed. You're right.
No, it's wonderful. I mean, it's honestly, I mean, it's incredible. And the fact that you guys, you know, are very honest and upfront. Like if one of you will say, well, my partner is with Google or whatever, and you know, you disclose it, you full disclose it, and it's wonderful. I want more arguments about GIF versus GIF.
Oh, I would do that.
That could be arranged.
Take Tom any day.
Well,
that's really nice, though. I feel like we're all going to get huge egos after this open mic is over because everyone says such nice things about the show.
Yeah, we really need to do this like every month.
Get your ego stroked. No, it's wonderful, and it's a great public service, and I'm very thankful for it. And you know, I've been listening to it for at least, you know, 5-6 weeks now. No, I'm just kidding. I've been listening for a couple of years, and it's wonderful. And thank you very kindly for what you do. I really appreciate it.
Well, I hope you listen further, not fewer.
I shall. That's right. Further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. We appreciate it. Dan is found at comediandan.com. And anything to tell him about before we let you go?
Go to comediandan.com. You can see President Obama talking about me. He says Dan is effing hilarious, and I'm serious. I'm not making that up.
Wow.
I met Steve Wozniak doing this. Took him to dinner the other day. You'll see like Wozniak and Bloomberg and Kunal Nair from Big Bang Theory and all these people, and Leo, by the way, giving me testimonials. So
awesome.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dan Nainan.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you again. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks, Dan.
Cheers.
Thanks, Dan.
And the president would know because he reads all of Dan's email, just like all of us. Let's get our last guest in here. One of the stalwarts of the chat room, TV's Egon, is Greg Skinner, who's joining us now. Welcome to Tech News Today, Greg.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I am excited to be a part of all this craziness.
How did you get interested in podcasting and shows and listening to stuff like we do?
Well, I think almost like Dan was saying, I started actually a couple of years ago when I had some long commutes and things like that. And, you know, corporate radio is no fun and nobody wants to do any kind of, you know, thinking on regular radio shows. So I drifted more into tech and things like that. And probably everybody else in the audience, I was a big fan of Tech TV back in the day, and Leo and Patrick and everybody else. So, being able to go back to such familiar people and familiar topics, it's a pretty nice thing. It's actually funny. I bumped into Leo here in Phoenix, where I live, probably right after Twit was started, because he was going to a Giants preseason game with his son, and I bumped into him and said, "Hey, Leo, I remember you," and we had a brief conversation, and he's personable as always. So, it's just one of those things of, everybody who I've met from Twit and other podcasts are just as wonderful in person as they are on the computer, and that's a great thing.
And you've met all of us? You're sure?
Well,
you're still...
I not everybody. I did bump into quite a few of the Twit staff at CES this year when I went out there to do some stuff for a friend's webpage, and it's one of those fun things. But everybody, 100% sample size of the people I've met have been wonderful.
And you do tech support? You do enterprise level stuff?
I do, yeah. Basically, it's funny. I started tech support way back when Gateway 2000 still had cow boxes and had on the inside the US tech support, and then from there I got into more enterprise networking and things like that. And so basically, I'm working. Actually, I'm switching jobs from one Fortune 50 company to another Fortune 50 company, doing network operations and things. Basically, the stuff that Padre SJ talks about on This Week in Enterprise Tech. So that's one of my big things that I like to watch as well, because it's doesn't talk down to people, which is wonderful.
About time, huh? That we finally got a real enterprise show.
Mm-hmm. Quite
well, good.
fun.
I'm glad you're enjoying that. When did you first start getting into computers? Tell us a little bit about your history with technology.
Well, my history is pretty long, like probably a lot of other people's. I would say I'm a second generation geek. My dad, who went to, it's kind of funny. My parents met in the Bay Area. Actually, my mom was born and raised in Oakland, and my dad went to Berkeley. But he graduated in '59 before it got all crazy. So he was actually NROTC at Berkeley. Then he went into the Navy. Did regular naval stuff for a while. Then he actually went back to school through the Navy and got into systems programming and systems test things and electronic warfare, things like that. So he was a COBOL, Fortran, ADA, all those kinds of geeky things. And he kind of imparted it to us gently. And, like Adam mentioned, one of our first computers was a Timex Sinclair 1000 with the little cartridge memory add-on the back, which is kind of slick. And from there, we moved into the Apple II and then up to the PCs, and we learned how to build and take them apart. And I started working in a computer store up in northern San Diego County that my brother's best friend was running. So I did tech work there and some sales stuff and just kind of all kinds of fun and geeky things. And literally was the point of the internet started hitting in the the mid-ish 90s, and my brother was a network engineer already for an internet provider, and he sat me down in front of his Amiga 1000 and said, "All right, you're going to learn how to make a web page, and don't leave until you've made your web page." And like 8 hours later, I actually had a fairly coded web page, but it got me involved, and I've moved up through there, and now it's one of those things. I deal with the internet in a collective term of gigabit plus size, pipes and all the backbones and things like that, and it's fun to see how it's all connected.
Well, since you and Adam both mentioned it, I feel like I have to show the Timex Sinclair up close. That I have. There's the port that you're talking about on the back. I have this sitting. This is mine from the same era. I bought this at Coast to Coast Hardware in Greenville, Illinois. This is a tiny little thing. It was like what, $90 to $99, I think, something like that.
Somewhere around there, yeah. And unless you then the memory cartridge, I think, was another $50 or so, and then you needed theirs or your own tape drive if you wanted to actually save your stuff, which was quite a lot of fun.
We didn't buy the tape drive for this, even though we had one for the TI-99, which meant that I really never learned to program on the Sinclair because I couldn't save anything. But we bought a printer. I don't know.
The thermal printer?
Yeah.
Ah, yes, that was fun. I think my dad was looking at that, but he just couldn't justify it to my mom at the time.
Yeah, I don't know how my dad justified the thermal printer. Again, because I think we printed one thing on it ever.
But you could do it.
Yeah.
So there.
Exactly. Well, okay, so you're an IT guy, you're an enterprise guy. I want to get your perspective on, because we're always also trying to walk a line of making sure that our explanations and what we're talking about is appealing to the widest variety of expertise in the audience. Is there a pet peeve about something we talk about with either IT support or enterprise level stuff that you would like to take this opportunity to instruct us or advise us?
The TNT seems to walk the line fairly well for that. I think obviously having Father Robert on staff has spread some knowledge of the higher end things.
Doesn't hurt at all.
No, but you know, it's one of those things that a lot of people, and even I catch myself sometimes looking at. There's a separation involved when you have your ISPs who are trying to make money and provide a service, and then there's these other companies over here, the backbone companies, your level 3s and your XOs, and all they do is move data from one place to another, and the connection in between them when they start fighting and things like that can be a bit of an issue. The fights between I'm trying to remember, it was like last year and the year before, all the peering issues and things like that, and people jump to conclusions of, oh, they're just trying to make money, and they're trying to stick it to the little guy, and a lot of the times these monster companies are it can be petty, but sometimes there are serious concerns. A peering relationship is supposed to be like you and your peers. It's you're a meeting of equals, and if that equality doesn't happen, then there's no point in spending the money for the resources used for those connections, and they might be better used elsewhere.
Yeah, and it always blurs the lines when it's an ISP and a CDN, or an ISP and a backbone provider, or a cable, like something like Comcast, where it's like, well, they have so many irons in the fire. How do we know that they're not, in fact, working for their own interests, even if they have a legitimate complaint, that they're not overemphasizing their legitimate complaint, stuff like that. It's tough.
Yeah, I totally understand it, and it's funny, in my professional career, I've actually worked for one of each of those types of companies. I worked for a network backbone provider. I've worked for a cable provider who's obviously provides TV services plus video on demand things and cable modems and such. It's funny, one of the ways that they've been making quite a bit of money lately is they actually have fiber backbone across rural parts of the country, and they're selling fiber bandwidth to like cell providers and companies who want that level of service, and now I'm working for major corporations, and I worked even for a content delivery network for a while. So having seen it from all the different sides of the spectrum, it's an interesting perspective to have.
Well, darn, I'm going to have to call on you next time we have one of those stories. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll certainly make myself available in whatever fashion works best for everybody.
Awesome. Before we let you go, I have one last question. And you are in the chat room all the time, and today you were over in the Frog Pants chat room when I was doing the morning stream, and over here. How do you do that? You're just amazing multitasker. Well,
there is quite a bit of multitasking. I will admit that like the current place I work has some sort of a block on network IRC chatter and things like that. So I might have my new Nexus 7 and a Bluetooth keyboard for some sort of access to chat. I can't confirm or deny that sort of an arrangement. But it's funny. I even mentioned this in chat with a friend last night of watching a show that's interactive like TNT and most of the Twitch shows is such an engaging experience compared to just listening to radio or watching TV or even listening to a podcast that is recorded. I'm a podcast fan. I listen to the Nerdist and the Alden Browncast and some other ones, and I hear things and I want to say something. I want to react, and I can't. except to myself. And it's so much more engaging when there's a chat room, even if the guests aren't watching or monitoring. There's other people, like-minded individuals who are there that provide that community, and it's nice to be able to share your thoughts and your feelings with all those kind of people.
It's interesting because that works both ways.
Yeah, it does.
When I'm on a show where I don't have a chat room, it's disconcerting.
It's like a piece of your brain is missing.
Yeah, it is a huge brain too out there with that collective chat room.
Totally.
Bob McBob in the chat room wants to know what TV's Egon stands for.
It's funny. I shouldn't say have. I was privileged to explain this to Scott Johnson actually at the New Media Expo in January in Vegas. We were chatting there about some of my previous jobs that I had. At one point when I lived in San Diego, I worked for a comic book coloring company. And so we actually knew several people in common who were involved in the comic books industry. So that takes me to one of my best friends from college actually did an online cartoon called Melon Pool, which is it's on a kind of an odd hiatus thing right now. But my friend Steve, who did that, he was one of the first web comics artists back in 94, 95 or so. He, when we were in college together at this little junior college in San Diego, started very good, yes. He started going to film classes. And one of the film classes, you had to make a student film. And he, being a cartoonist, didn't know what to do. So you see down at the bottom, there's a picture of a puppet. We actually made a puppet movie for this junior college class project, which was quite interesting because there were, of course, your collegiate people trying to be artsy and deep, and we made basically a live action Star Trek comic extravaganza, which was quite exciting. And in it, I was the camera person because I've been a photographer for years and years. So they put me in a camera rig. I was wearing this kind of a long coat that but with lots of pockets so I could carry everything. And I had a backpack that had an 8-channel mixer and all of the wireless microphone equipment in it. And then I had a boom mic coming out over my shoulder, almost like a turret. And so they started calling me Egon because I'm tall and I was thin-ish at the time. And the TV's part actually comes from Mystery Science Theater. Over on this shoulder, there's my Mystery Science Theater thing. I got to point it out to Patrick Delahanty. That's my signed poster that I got. Patrick and I apparently were at the second Mystery Science Theater convention in Minnesota at the same time. And we actually know several people. It's quite interesting as a small world type thing. But the TV's is an homage to TV's Frank, and also because when I was getting into IRC and other chat type things, Egon was a popular name at the time. So the mashup of the two worked quite well together.
Cool. Well, Greg, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us and for being such a loyal and awesome person in the chat room and everything.
Well, I appreciate it greatly. I'm, a huge fan of all of yours. Like Sarah said, it's going to be a ego boost type thing. And, it certainly is something I'm a fan of and something that I have a certain, level of fanaticism for. Obviously the root of, or the logical conclusion of a fan, with all the other shows, like it's funny. I was mentioning to a friend that I was bummed I didn't get a chance to talk to you, Tom, because a couple months ago, Justin Robert Young actually was sitting about 15 feet from me in my basement recording NSFW because.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Yeah. He hates using his laptop and using hotel Wi-Fi. So I was like, come to my house. He's like, well, how fast is your internet? So I had to do the geek, show my card sort of thing. I just sent him a screenshot of a speed test showing my internet speeds. And he's like, okay, I'll be there. So I didn't hijack the stream. I guess I was a little bit timid at the point to bust in and say hi to Brian and you and everybody. But I was sitting right there and it was fun. Oh yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Greg, keep circulating the tapes. Thanks for being on the show. And you can follow him on the Twitters, TVSEGON, TV's Egon.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, thank you. Thanks, everybody. And, like everybody else said, keep it up. And, you keep putting the shows out there. And I'm sure we will all definitely keep watching them.
I think we will. That's awesome. Thanks, man. And that brings us to the end of our special Labor Day listener co-host show. How do you guys feel?
That was fantastic.
I feel very loved today.
It never ceases to amaze me how we end up getting all these really, really, I mean, obviously loyal viewers and listeners, but just really interesting people. I'm just sort of sitting here like, tell me more about your really cool, interesting life.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing the expertise and the level of experience in the audience, and that not just these are 3 examples today, but there's all kinds more in the chat realm. I say from time to time we have the smartest audience on earth, and we wouldn't have as good of a show without them. So big thanks to you guys for your labors of love for us.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah,
we can take that out in post. Well, thanks everybody. As always, if you're not in the chat room, maybe you're in the subreddit technewstoday.reddit.com, where you can submit stories and vote on them. Be sure to get it there and vote. We'll be back with a new live show tomorrow. twit.tv/TNT, of course. Email us TNT@twit.tv and give us a call 260-TNT show. Gina Trapani joins us. Looking forward to that. We'll see you then.